Jai Gurudev, everybody, welcome back. So today, here in Germany, they have ease upon the lockdown. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that the virus is gone completely, This one have to bear in mind, And of course, you still have to keep your distance and so on, And it is nice because everybody came to the temple to pray today. Of course, keeping the social distancing, but connecting inside, This is the most important of all. But it's nice to see that, yes, the government is planning to open. But this is also can be also a danger if one don't take a certain measurement and precaution, because we can see from past experience, especially the Spanish flu, what happened. They open up, and then the second wave of that was even more stronger. So just don't think that because of the lockdown have been finished and everything is finished. No, you have to take your precaution also, and look forward really seeing you here. Hopefully you could come, but we are connected still with the media. And we will start also darshan soon on Monday, and on Thursday it will be public darshan for everybody. So the registration will be similar, and of course I don't know how the Zoom thing works, but they will send you probably a code or something. So I'll ask Jagopadnam to ask the question.
Dear Guru, believing that everything happens for a reason easily leads to the illusion that I am the center of the universe. For example, this traffic jam only happened to protect me from further danger, when really hundreds of people were involved. It seems arrogant to think God arranged it for me. What is the truth?
Yes, look, from a point of view of a devotee, like I said before, the devotee perceives the grace of God everywhere. And of course, in one life, those who is centered upon the divine, they have to see Him in everything, in every situation of their life. It's not only when good things happen, they say, yes, it is from God. No, also when something bad happens, it is also from Him. And because it is not something bad because He have great pleasure into that, no. But He give you certain things in life so that you can transcend the certain reality, and then find Him in everything that you do. So it's not only in good or bad, but of course a devotee will always praise God for that, because he knows behind everything there is a hand of God. So it's not that those who have been involved, the involvement also of that 100 of people that you were saying about is also His plan into it. So, like it is said, there's this famous verse that said, if Krishna want to harm me, nobody can protect me. But if somebody want to harm me, and Krishna is there to protect, nobody can do anything. So this is the stand upon the faith of a devotee now. So a devotee stands with this unswearing faith, that faith that doesn't change. And this is what it is said in Bhagavad, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 6 itself. It said, what is the goal of a human life? That goal of a human life is to serve and serve Krishna, serve Giridhariji, serve Srimad Narayana, however, serve God, This is the aim of a human life, to serve God in any time itself. Not only in good time we serve Him and in bad time we don't. No. Oh, very often people in bad time they remember God. Oh God, please save me. But in good time they are having their leisure and enjoyment. They forget about God. No, He said no. In every moment, those who understand that, those who have this deep understanding of why life has been given to them, and what is life, what is the purpose of life, what is your dharma really, that true dharma, why you have come here, is to attain Him. So having this deep understanding that my dharma here is to attain Him, like it said in the Bhagavad, we serve Bhagwan in many ways. So how we serve Him, our devotion up to Him, is without any egoistic or self-centered. So understand that in everything we have a certain ego involved in too, but also self-centered. Only I, mine, and my. This is the glory of the free I. So here one said, no, if you want to attain me, you have to be devout of that. A devotee, when they call themselves a devotee, they are devout of these I, mine, and mine. They know that everything, it is by His grace that it happened. So when everything happened by His grace, also certain situation, His hand is into that. And He's there to protect. He's there to look after. So in chapter 8, verse 14 of Bhagavad Gita, He also reminds that those who surrender to me with single-pointed minded, they attain me. But that single-pointed mindedness must be there. That devotion must be there. It's not just to say, yes, I believe in Krishna, I believe in Srimad Narayana, I believe in God, like many people do. I think having a plain faith, without having an experience of Him, having this relationship, without even feeling Him, you can't call yourself a devotee. So those who is aware of that, they have this unswearing faith inside of Him in any situation, whether it is good or bad situation. Their mind is fully absorbed into the remembrance of the grace of God in their life. So that's what Bhagavan Krishna said, those whose mind is focused on me, this mind which is pristine, it is so unique in itself. A mind of a devotee is not just like, okay, I believe, yes, or I pray, yes, I'm on my knees every day whenever I have time. No, it is not just a superficial things, it is part of my life itself, He is part of my life. More than anything else, He is the most important in my life. More important than my husband, my children, my mother, father, anybody. When we chant the mantra, Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu Chashaka Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Travidam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, we're expressing that you are my mother and father. You are my dearest one. You are my everything. You are the gyan, you are the wisdom, you are everything for me. So you are that, which is the most important in my life. So why not? When something happened in my life, it's not you. So it is you who govern everything. There's nothing happen without you willing it to happen. In Ramcharitramanas, Goswami Tulsidas said, even the leaves can't move if Ram don't will it to move. So a devotee perceives that blessing into everything that happened in their life. So even that situation, even when it is happening, the hand of God is there, protecting you. But very often people forget about that grace, And they think that, yes, everything is a coincidence. Everything happened just coincidentally. It's not. There is not a God which is looking after. No, for a devotee it is clear that it is God. For an atheist, but they don't perceive that because they don't know that there is a God that exists and looking after them. So there was once a devotee, not a devotee actually, if it were a devotee she would still be around. There was one lady that I used to know, and once, I gave her a ring, and that ring was a big ring actually, it was amazing, it was a huge stone. And she was always wondering why she have a huge stone like that. And she was wearing it, and one day, as she was crossing the road, there was a bus that hit her violently. And the hand got squeezed in between, I think, a pole or something. But nothing happened to her finger, nothing happened to her hand. And she was protected in that way. But you see, like human beings, they forget very quickly. They think that, yes, it was just a coincidence. So, you see, like that, a devotee don't make that mistake of forgetting that life itself has been given to them. Like it said in Bhagavad, that this life has been given for one purpose, is to attain Him. And how we will attain Him? Only when we have a devotion to Him that doesn't change, no matter what happens. Otherwise, you will go up and down. So those who understand that, they will perceive God in everything, whatever they do. And it will be the grace of Guru and God with them all the time, protecting them, saving them, carrying them, caring for them. Whether you perceive it or not, this is the role of the Master to do.
Do you have any recommendations for how our funerals should be arranged?
Yeah?
Funerals. I grew up in a Christian context, so I don't know how devotees or Vaishnavas and their relatives should handle this.
Well, this is true. Actually, we are working on this manual right now, the funeral rites, because very often, some devotee, they are devotee, yes, and when they pass the family on, which is not devotee, they don't know which kind of rite to do. Of course, they do their own cultural rite, but here we do it according to what we do remember them, we do pray for them, And of course, if you know the Vedic tradition, then you will do the prayer for the departed soul, then that we are working upon that right. So then this will be given to the devotee, and of course they can share it with them, so to the people which is around them, so in case they pass away. But the most important thing, when a devotee passes away, and if ever there is devotees which live near there, it is important to put a tulsi leaves, in the mouth of the devotee, in the mouth of that person, And it's important to chant the name of God, near that body of that person, because that body was a vehicle, which have bring that devotee on the spiritual path. One must have respect to that, even if it's just a body, like when we talk about in spirituality, especially in Sanatana Dharma, we speak about the body, not that it has a not important, but yet that without that body, we will not be able to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. It is through this body, but you see, that mind has been transformed also. That intellect has surrendered itself, for that consciousness to awake, So that's why also, you see, Bhagavan can also make you realize yourself from wherever you were before you take birth here. But it is not possible. Because you see, to attain to this grace, you have to finish all your karmic things which you have cultivated for many lives, For you have attached yourself to that, you have created so many karmas to that. So, coming to that point of the moment when you have passed on, your body is there, the devotees should sing. The reading of Bhagavad Gita should be there, the reading of Ramayana should be there, and chanting of the divine name should be there. Because it's not, for a devotee, we have to see one thing. It's not a time of misery. Of course, it's a sad moment, but it's a time of rejoicing. Because he's going to meet his beloved Lord, which he have prayed long throughout his life here. Why should you sit and cry? It reminds me very much of, in the Hindu tradition especially, when the bride is going away from the parental house to her husband's place, they are crying and throwing that as if they will never see the person again. So I remember my auntie itself, from my mother's side, when she was crying, when she got married. Actually, she got married like literally, let's say, 10 houses in the same village, 10 houses far away. And I remember they were just running behind the cow crying. It was funny. But it is the same, you see, when the departed souls are going to meet his beloved. It's a time of rejoicing. So you should sing the name of God. Bhajan Kirtan should be there. If it is a devotee and the family is devoted, yes, sing the glory of the Lord, because the soul should be accompanied by singing, Just like Andal was being accompanied with grand fanfare to meet Sri Ranganath, So like that, one should be accompanied. It's not a time of being miserable. So just chant the name of God and rejoice. Have great respect for that body, which had become the vehicle of the Lord, like Krishna said. If somebody have done so many sin in his life, but yet repented and take shelter to me and have become my devotees, they should be considered as a saint. It doesn't matter what they have done in their life, everybody have done something in their life, So no one is really perfect. There is a past, and that past, everybody have a past, and the past was not great, but due to the grace of Guru and God, they have changed. So due to that grace which Bhagwan have given to them to become a devotee itself, one have to have respect to them. So chanting and respecting to this physical coil is also important. So,
dear Paramahamsa Vishananda, I am completely new. I have never met you, but I have come across your satsangs and live streams, and they have touched me deeply. I have been suffering for a long time, and I feel very lost in life. I am open to your help, so how should I, or people like me, begin my path?
Firstly, it depends which country you are, So wherever you are, what I will suggest you is to associate yourself to the devotee there. Get to know, get in contact with the devotees. And if there is no devotees, you can always follow the satsang. You can also join into the japam, chanting of the divine name. So when we are chanting Vitthal, which is Panduranga, Krishna's name. And we are chanting the name of God, so you can chant together with us. So like that, you educate yourself. One thing which is important, to start one thing, what I always ask the devotees, start reading the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Though that will give you a certain understanding of what is true spiritual path. It's not just a shallow spirituality, which very often people are looking for, So you see, very often you see many kind of spirituality, but they don't. I will not say that we are better or the others are worse. We are not saying that. There's no comparison. Everybody will find the path where they have to be. So if that have touched you and you feel inside of you that calling, of course, educate yourself. Get to know about that path. And there's an academy, Bhakti Marga Academy. You can also join and subscribe into that. They will send you certain information. They will send you certain recommendation what you have to read, and they will help you into this thing. So.
Hello, I am 7 years old, and I wonder, how can the deities be alive? How can they eat? I don't see them moving.
It's really sweet, actually. Yes, you see, once this question was asked, I think a few days ago I told this story about that. Once this question was asked to a guru. He said, oh, you're offering all these delicacies to the Lord. How do you know that the Bhagwan accept that? Because I don't see him eating it. For some blessed one, yes, they have had the grace to see him, but not everybody. So the Guru said to the disciple, he gave them some mantra to chant. He said, memorize this mantra. He wrote it down on a paper and gave it to them. So after some time, he asked them, have you memorized this mantra? So the students, they say, yes, we have memorized the mantra. And he asked them to chant it. So of course they all start chanting the mantra. So when they were chanting the mantra, the Guru came to the boy who asked the question. Because you have been, just like you have asked the question. So the Guru came and said to him, so you have memorized these mantras? And he said, yes. But show me on the paper. So the mantra was still there. I said, how come the mantra have not disappeared from the paper, even if you have memorized it? Then the Guru explained, said, Bhagwan is the same. Whatever we offer to him, he accepts it. Whatever we offer to him with devotion, he accepts it. But of course, he accepts it in a spiritual way. And that acceptance is not visible to the eyes of human being. And he sit there and he ate it. But he ate it and leave the rest as Mahaprasad. So like that, you see, he take the prasad. I will tell you another story of a saint in Vrindavan. So that saint was named Pagal. They used to call him Crazy Baba. And he will stand in the temple, in Banki Bihari temple in Vrindavan, and he would just look at Krishna. So one day, he screamed so loud, because he was a bit crazy, so nobody really will give him much attention. So he screamed with his loud voice, said, have anyone seen my beloved Lord Krishna take these prasad? nobody said anything because nobody have seen Bhagwan eating the prasad. So then from behind, an old priest who used to serve Krishna, with a frail voice, he said, I have seen. And of course, when he said that, everybody turned back and looked at him and start to wonder, please tell us more. Then the Baba, the crazy Baba, ran to him, grabbed him and said, you better tell me. So he got so scared and he started telling, when I was young, in 1954, such question also arise in my mind, because when everybody bring the offering, they just put it in front of Krishna. And of course, that passed in his mind. While he was cleaning, he was thinking, do you really accept these offering? So as he was cleaning, he had these thoughts. And of course he forgot about it. So it was time to offer bhog, which means food for Bhagwan himself to eat, for Krishna to eat the food. So normally the temple is closed. So he was cleaning, and of course they put the table in front of Krishna, and they put all the offering, all the food in front of him. And he did the prayer, and they closed the door. There's only one door, they closed the door, and the door was locked with the key. And of course there were 2 guards there. So the priest left, and when he came back, he opened, and as he bowed down to Krishna, so he put the prasad, the Mahaprasad, on the side. As he was cleaning, because after offering of food, they offer water to Krishna. As he was ready to offer water to Krishna, he saw on the lips of the deity, there were some crumbs of the laddu, of the prasad. And he started to wonder, how did this laddu, that crumbs from the laddu, came to his lips? Then he looked at the prasad. You see, the prasad is prepared with very disciplined way, So when he looked at the prasad, one of the laddu was like broken, but they had teeth mark on it. At that moment, it flashes in his mind, his doubt, what he had inside of his mind. And he realized what he realized what he had asked before, and he bowed down and asked for forgiveness. So that old priest was telling that story to everybody, and everybody was amazed. More amazed was Pagal Baba. He was so joyful, and said, okay, I understand now why my friend, whenever he come to me, but when food is offered, he just run away. So from the next day on, that crazy Baba, what he did, he took a big basket of food and he stood there in the temple. And he said to him, he went there and said, today I will feed Krishna. I will feed him. Until I don't feed him, I will not go away from here. And of course he stood there, people look at him, from morning he stood there, and it reached lunchtime. And of course when it reached lunchtime, he was still standing, nothing happened. So lunchtime they brought the food for Krishna, and of course, like I said to you, the door is closed, and of course it's locked, then they went away. So as he was standing, a little boy pull his clothes from behind. So then he said, oh, leave me alone. Because you see, in his mind he was thinking that this little boy is asking him, give me something to eat. And he said, no, leave me alone. I will not give you anything. Go away. So when again the little boy pulled his clothes, again he was angry, said, go away, I told you I would not give you anything. And a third time he turned, was very angry, and looked at the little boy. And when he looked at the little boy, that little boy was with a short and a little shirt, like a Brajvasi, a little normal boy, a dark skin. But to his eyes, he could see that this was Krishna himself. So he took the little boy on his lap. For the eyes of people, of course, was just a little boy. But he saw that it was Krishna in disguise who have come. And he fed him. And he was feeding him. And as he was feeding him, of course it was time to open the temple. The pujari came, tried to open, and the key will go inside, but it would not open. He tried and tried. At that moment, the little boy stood up and said, I have to go now. He just ran into the crowd and disappeared. And then the Pagal Baba, the crazy Baba, stood up and said to the pujari, now it will open. And as he had said that, eventually the door opened. And then the people asked him, how do you know? Then he said, well, he was there with me. And then when you tried to open, he just ran again inside. So like that, you see, in the eyes, because people, the material eyes just see only the outside. But those who have spiritual eyes, they perceive who is in front of them. It's not just a statue. It's not just something made of stone, but it is Bhagavan himself which is there. And those who have faith, and those who have that complete surrender, they perceived him. They see his Leela. They see what he's doing, really, that many people doesn't see. There was one story, one things which happened, in Mauritius actually, some years back, around 15 years ago. You see, during Navaratri, we offer 9 puris for Devi. And this is a tradition, it's a culture in Mauritius, that what we do. And these 9 puris was put in front of Devi. And of course there were many people in the temple at that moment. My mom was there, my aunties and everybody were there. And they prepared everything. You have the puris and you have the kheer, which is the sweet rice on it. And this was covered with a cloth. And they were doing the prayer. And when the time came to remove the clothes to do the offering to the Divine Mother, to the shock of everybody, or amazement of everyone, all the sweet rice which were put upon were disappeared, were gone. And they were there. They didn't leave that place any moment. So you see, in certain instant, those who have faith, and sometimes they have certain experience that the Lord come and eat the prasad which they have offered. Like that, there is many stories, of great devotees, and many stories of devotees itself who have offered prasad and have had experience that this prasad have disappeared, the prasad have been consumed or partly. So you see, the divine does accept those. That's what Krishna said. Those who offer to me, a leaves and a few drop of water, with devotion and love, I shall accept that. How merciful it is. He don't long for big prasad. Just a little prasad, but when it is offered with love and devotion, he accepts that. So, Jai Gurudev.